Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I ask myself this question: is any of this real? Am I Keanu Reeves living in the Matrix and just waiting to follow the white rabbit in order to get my choice of pills and actually, wake up from this giant dream that I've been living? And today was no different, because I went on jw.org, the official website of the Jehovah's Witnesses, and I came across a video that is coming from someone that's at the tippity top of this organization. If the governing body members, the leaders of the Watchtower and Bible Tract Society, as they are known, that's the official organization of Jehovah's Witnesses, but if the governing body are the emperor, then this guy is Darth Vader. So this is coming from a helper to the governing body. He is someone that is famous within the Jehovah's Witness community and within the organization, and he is a voice of authority. When this person talks, people are going to listen. And it is wild that he is chosen as his topic, the topic of meekness. Meekness and humility. Yes, this man is about to tell you the great quality of being humble and being meek, while he is actively one of the most arrogant people that exists on planet Earth. This man literally thinks that him and his buddies are the channel of spiritual food by an omniscient, all-powerful deity that is using him and his pals as the only source of true information coming from heaven. Yes, he has tapped into the mainframe. He has opened his third eye and is able to see into a hidden dimension, get messages from the other side, and like a little mama bird, puke them out into us little chickadees that haven't even learned how to fly, and spitting in our mouths so that way we can be fed. This is a pretty wild video, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Anyway, but before we get going, my name is Wally. Hello, and if you like this video, like this content, don't forget to like this video, because there's a button that says you like it. So if you like it, then like it. Makes a modicum of sense. And comment down below, let me know what you think of this. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. Anyway, with all of that being said, let's do this. It's easy as cleaning his claws, so that means you should subscribe.
Now, when we analyze our own personality, how many of us zero in on meekness? That might not be the first quality that comes to mind. We may think that it's rather benign, innocent, maybe even inconsequential. We think, I have other bigger issues I need to deal with first. I need to work on being more courageous, impartial, loving, forgiving, discerning, and a whole list of other qualities might come to mind. While meekness might sound benign and inconsequential, in reality, it is a very complex quality and quite diverse.
So Buffalo Bill starts off by telling us about what the quality of meekness really is. And it's so amazing to me that he can be talking about meekness and humility, and he immediately starts telling people what they are thinking. He continues over and over, well, what you might be thinking or what we might be thinking about this is this, and we would probably respond by this. He's literally like trying to incept people with his giant, massive brain and ego. He's trying to put these ideas in your mind and saying, no, I know how you feel. I know how you're thinking. I know what your perceptions are, instead of actually just presenting information to his audience. And this is an audience, don't forget, that's going to go out to 8 million people that are going to be expected to watch this and consume this content. It's really wild to me that he can be talking about meekness while at the same time he's saying, well, this is what you must be thinking, and this is what we think, and this is what we think. And it's like, wait, what is this weird Orwellian group newspeak thing that you got going on here, bucko? Pretty funny.
You know, one Watchtower described meekness as a piece of artwork painted by a skilled artist. Now you look at the artwork there, it's beautiful. Moses' development of meekness was so beautiful to Jehovah that he would make sure it was put under the spotlight, by far the meekest of all men. Well, what's the point of similarity between a piece of artwork and meekness?
So I've tried to spare you guys a little bit of the insanity, and I cut out about 3 minutes of his lyrical loquaciousness. But I thought it would be fun to jump in on one of Kenneth Flodine's classic, and he has had some whoppers in the past of really bad illustrations.
This is Brett Cox, Michael Banks, and in case you're wondering, they're not real Bethel waiters. This is garlic powder. This is basic old mud. This represents poison. We have a trash can. The garlic powder represents inherited sin and imperfection. Garlic powder is not poison.
He gets pretty wild, and I do appreciate the effort that he puts into it. But he brings up this Bob Ross-esque picture and say, well, what do, the quality of meekness and this picture have in common? Well, they're both beautiful. Okay, just to clue you in, not to get accused of trying to manipulate the facts here, but he was basically talking about the example of Moses. Moses had to learn meekness. He grew up according to the Bible, grew up in the court of Pharaoh as a prince, essentially, and was in a pretty high status. And then God had to kick him in the ass a little bit and send him to be a sheep herder. So after he was a sheep herder, a shepherd. God, that was... Speaking of lyrical loquaciousness, good golly, a sheep herder. There's a word for that, moron. Oh, good stuff. Anyway, so he had to be a shepherd for 40 years. So he spent 40 years, became an old man, and learned the quality of meekness through his shepherding. And then he came in and started performing miracles, full on zapping people with laser bolts out of his hand. Pretty interesting stuff. Throwing his rod down and it becomes a snake. So it looked like his 40 years really paid off because he became an actual superhero. So yeehaw, shout outs to Moses. But let's see if he can make this already weird illustration with Bob Ross painting even worse. And I promise, he does.
Well, the artist has to blend colors together deftly, skillfully. A variety of colors come together. For example, of those 3 primary colors on a colorware, it's red, yellow, and blue. Well, by mixing these colors together, an artist can paint a beautiful, tranquil painting. And as you see in the image of the secondary colors, if you mix red and yellow together, what color do you see between them?
So Michelangelo here has come to really bestow his wisdom on us and give us an effective illustration that no doubt all of us are enjoying. And he asks us a real brain blaster here. If you look between these 2 colors, what do you get? It's so stupid. This man's ability or inability to come up with even a reasonably clever illustration is astounding. It's astounding that he is going to have an audience of 8 million people, and he's literally switched his brain to the off position. It's no longer firing at full maximum capacity. He has taken some evolutionary steps back and has now become a bipedal homunculi, and is like, but imagine the color wheel. What's in between the 2 colors there? You know what I'm saying? Because that's going to give you a lesson in humility. What in the actual hell is he talking about? But you might be thinking, well, surely he only talks about, one of the colors, because clearly we get, at least what he's trying to say. But no, this genius, this master of illustrations has really come to lay it on us thick and hard. Wow, that sounded weird.
It's orange. If you mix yellow and blue together, what color do you see then? You see green.
Surely, after 2 direct assaults on your intelligence, this man isn't going to go in for strike number 3, really hit you with the wombo combo, and see if he can really start to annoy you and talk to you as if you were a child, even though, reasonably speaking, most of his audience, or his intended audience, is going to be adults.
And if you mix red and blue together, it produces violet or purple. Well, the artist further mixes colors together, and he can get all the hues necessary to paint a beautiful, tranquil scene.
Yes, now your intelligence has been fully assaulted. You are no longer allowed to think, because looking at this color wheel and saying, hey, there's a lot of different facets and dimensions to this quality of meekness and humility. And it's kind of like a color wheel. There's a lot of different aspects of it, and sometimes there's things in between. It's a spectrum. He could have just said that and moved right along, or just said the word, developing this quality of meekness can be kind of a spectrum, because it involves incorporating a lot of different aspects of one's personality all together in order to produce, this quality of humility or meekness. But no, he has to break it down for you on this not even elementary, this kindergarten level. Maybe they don't have kindergarten around the world. I don't know. If you're from a different country, then what do you do before you go to primary school? Let me know in the comments below. But anyway, it's so fascinating that he is using such a dumb, simple, stupid illustration.
It insults my intelligence. It makes me very angry.
And tripling down on it. Well, what do you get between these 2 colors? What do you get between these 2 colors? What do you get between these 2 colors? Hey, now we understand. I didn't get it the first fucking time. Holy.
Well, what's the point of similarity? Meekness is not one color. It's not just one quality. It's blending many different qualities together in a skilled fashion. To achieve meekness, it requires we mix together various virtues like humility, lowliness of mind, gentleness, patience, mildness of temper, long-suffering. And like an artist, if we work on all those qualities simultaneously, the result is this beautiful masterpiece that we call meekness.
Yes, one of the most arrogant human beings that exist on planet Earth has come to tell you that you need lowliness of mind. Think of others as lower than yourself. And you know what? To be honest, he must be an expert, because he does think of others as, oh wait, no, lowliness of mind would mean that you would think of others as above you. But he's talking down to people as if they're children. Seems like he is in a position and saying words that are kind of goofy at best and insulting at worst. But hey, I'm no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses, so what do I have to care but to have a bit of a giggle, a little bit of a chuckle at this goofy goober as he's trying to explain the quality of meekness. I'm having a good time, and I hope you are too.
Please turn now to Numbers chapter 12. We're going to reason on verse 3 from a different aspect. And so there it is, verse 3 again. Now the man Moses was by far the meekest of all men on the face of the earth. So leave your Bible open there for a moment. Question: who wrote those words? Well, those were Moses' own words. And so some commentators have criticized this, saying that this was unjustified self-praise. Somewhat like a person who says of himself, I'm humble and I'm proud of it.
So now he fully paints himself into a corner. I know I use the word paint because, he used the illustration earlier. Ha ha, hee hee, Wally's funny. Anyway, so this guy paints himself into a corner with his color wheels, And I don't know if he thought about this beforehand, but he brought up Moses in the part that I cut out, but he brought up Moses. And then he asked an important question. Wait, who was supposed to have wrote those words? Who do we say wrote those words? Oh, Moses did. So he was just being self-congratulatory. Oh, I'm the meekest person in all of the land. Doesn't that just ring true with what this guy is doing? So now he's like, yeah, you can be one of the most arrogant people on the planet, and yet as long as you say that you're meek.
Well, let's look at the context first here. Situation is described in Numbers 12, 1 and 2. Moses' sister and brother challenged his authority as the official spokesman for Jehovah. And Miriam was listed first in this mutiny. She was the oldest of the three siblings. Moses was the youngest. And it's apparent that Miriam was the instigator, because if you glance down there in verse 10, of the two, she was the only one struck with leprosy.
I'm no expert or biblical scholar or an authority on the matter, but I have read the Bible a fair amount, and I think about it on pretty much every single day. And I can tell you that this is one of a prime example that I point to of overt sexism in the Bible. You have two people, Miriam and Aaron, and they are both murmuring and complaining against Moses having all of the authority, having a monopoly of power. Now, Aaron in the Bible was literally just made out of some 3M, full-on Teflon, like he could not be touched. Even he made a false god that people worshipped, and other people died for him making the false god. And the Bible's like, well, people kind of pressured him into doing it. It wasn't really that bad anyway, so what are you going to do about it, bro? And it's really astonishing that he's pointing to this, because it's really messed up the fact that Miriam, the woman in this scenario, is the one that gets struck with leprosy, and nothing happens to her brother. So he's saying, well, clearly she was the instigator, and clearly she was the one at fault because she was the only one that got struck with leprosy. It's also possible, by having an honest reading of those verses, that the Bible's just sexist. And it is. You just read it. It is. In my humble opinion. My meek opinion.
And remember, meekness, the definition, part of it was endures injury with patience without irritation, resentment, or retaliation. So Moses absorbed this withering, blistering provocation meekly. And now look at the end of verse 2. It says, Jehovah was listening. So Jehovah was right there. He saw and heard the level of vehemence.
I vehemently voice my vituperous and vindictive vulgarity at the vile verisimilitude that vexes this voyeur of vernacular. I couldn't help myself. Just hearing him say vehemently in such a weird and odd way just inspired me. And you know what? Shout outs to V for Vendetta. It was a good movie. Anyway, graphic novel as well. But let's not nerd out and let's move along.
Well, what was Moses' relationship with Jehovah? Verse 8. Face to face I speak to him, openly, not by riddles, and the appearance of Jehovah is what he sees. Well, we understand, of course, that this was through an angel, but...
So here's the exact thing that I was talking about. Here he's reading a passage from God's word, the Bible, God's own word, and saying, well, we understand this. I know it says in this book that he was talking to God, but what it really means is he was talking to an angel. Well, then why didn't it just say he was talking to an angel? What reason can you logically give to just insert this concept? Well, I can, sorry to be the Scrooge of the dinner party here, but I can tell you it's because there are verses in the Bible that say no one has seen the face of God. So when they read these verses where it says he was talking face to face, they have to say, well, it wasn't really face to face. It's absolutely hideous and really laughable at a certain point. Like, it's just such a clear issue and problem that they don't want to acknowledge. And the fact that this guy is arrogant enough to tell you, no, God can't even speak for himself. I'm going to put myself above God, above his word, the Bible, and tell you that the words he said don't really mean what they sound like, but here's what it really means. He's interpreting God's own words. This man is absolutely the epitome of arrogance. And if that's not a clear example of why I'm comfortable saying that, then I don't know what else is. Someone that comes to you and say, yeah, well, I know the Bible, and there's billions of people that follow the Bible, and they think it's God's word, but I'm here to tell you that what's in the Bible isn't really true, but my interpretation of the Bible is the actual truth. All right, bucko. I'm saying bucko a lot lately. I wonder why. Maybe because it's funny. I don't know.
Moses had this two-way communication directly with Jehovah. In fact, Insight had a significant statement, I thought. It said that Moses had a more direct, constant, and intimate relationship with Jehovah than did any other prophet prior to Jesus Christ. Now, that's quite a statement, isn't it? And think about it. When Jesus came, he superseded Moses' status, because at that point, Jesus became by far the meekest man that ever walked the earth.
This man immediately contradicts himself. Immediately. The blinders are on so heavy with this guy, he can't see anything but like the few little things that he's been told to say. It is wild. So he says that, well, he didn't have any direct, face-to-face communication. It was through an angel. And then he immediately goes and says, well, Moses, he had a lot of direct communication with God, more than any other person. Direct. Like, how am I, if I say, oh yeah, two people were talking directly at one another, I'm not picturing a scenario where there's someone that's like, getting the message from one person and then going over, okay, they said this because they don't want to talk to you. And okay, well, they said this because they don't want to talk to you. It reminds me of like the SpongeBob episode where they're sending the little bubble messages and then all of a sudden Squidward starts interfering with it.
Patrick, you are the dumbest idiot it has ever been my misfortune to know.
Like, when you're talking about direct communication, that just absolutely contradicts the thing you said just before, where you're saying, well, no, it wasn't direct. It was actually a mediated experience. So it was a direct yet mediated face-to-face communication with God. Thank you so much for clarifying what the Bible has to say, Mr. Flodine, because I wouldn't have been able to figure it out on my own, and by golly, you have become a real hero, a real guru when it comes to interpreting biblical passages.
But what did Jesus say about himself at Matthew 11:29? He said, I'm mild-tempered and lowly of heart, meekness. Well, was that unjustified self-praise on his part? No, it was unvarnished truth. And it's similar with Moses, the way he described himself. It's true he penned the words, but we must never forget those were not his words. He was inspired by God. He was the meekest of all men. Well, was he perfect in this quality? No. We all recall the rash action on his part when he struck the rock to bring forth water, and the credit for the miracle he took away from Jehovah, applied to himself. Well, that was a huge mistake that Moses regretted for the rest of his life. And Jehovah took the insult seriously. He did not allow him to enter the promised land. But how did Jehovah view Moses after that? I find Deuteronomy 34:10.
So after this entire episode with Moses, he grows up as being a prince in Egypt. Then he learns the quality of meekness by becoming a shepherd for 40 years. Goes back takes down the juggernaut, faces the empire, the First Order, all by himself. Well, not all by himself. He had Aaron by his side. But he takes down the whole institution. You know, he whips out his rod. It becomes a snake. He parts the Red Sea. All of these fantastic miracles. The whole Nile River turning to blood. All sorts of supernatural events. And then he hits a rock with his staff. I know, ha hee hee. But he hits a rock with his staff because people are thirsty and water starts spewing out of it. And he says, "Look what I've done." After all of these crazy superpowers that he's demonstrated, he makes the mistake of saying, "Hey, look what I've done." And God is so fickle, so quick to judge and say, "You know what? Sorry, buddy, but you don't get to lead my people into the promised land anymore. You need to die an enigmatic death and not actually inherit this grand promise, this carrot that's been dangling in front of you for years. Sorry, you don't get to go to the promised land." So the lesson of this whole thing is never get too high on your horse. Don't ever think so much of yourself that you can take credit for anything. But that just flies in the face of exactly what Kenneth Flodine is doing by saying things like, well, what the Bible really means is this. He's literally doing the same thing in the account that he's reading. And it's like he's just spitting in the face of his audience because they're not seeing this. And my golly Miss Molly, I hope that some people that would have watched this, that are Jehovah's Witnesses, can take a step back and think to themselves, wait, is he literally the thing he's describing? In a negative way? Because he certainly thinks he's the thing that he's describing in a positive way. Oh boy.
Deuteronomy, Moses. But in this case, these were not his words pinned down. He had already died, you see in verse 5 there. And so Insight attributes these final inspired words of the book to Joshua, the writer of the next book of the Bible. So meekness, it's a complex and beautiful quality that we can strive to more fully achieve.
So now he decides he's going to paint himself into another corner because he admits something kind of strange about the Bible there in Deuteronomy, because they say, well, Moses wrote the book of Deuteronomy, but how does it write about his death and things that happened after that? I don't know, guys. What do you think? I mean, we already said that Moses should be the writer of this. Well, how about it just has another writer, and we just say Joshua wrote it? What's the foundation for that? I don't know. He was there? Okay, sounds good. It's so wild that he brings up, I don't ever understand when people actually bring up an inconsistency in the biblical text itself. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know I did. It was full of a lot of silly goofiness, and Kenneth Flodine is absolutely my favorite when it comes to making some really bad illustrations. He is the absolute captain of the ship that is going straight into the iceberg and saying, no, it's okay. We can take the hit. We don't have to worry about that. We're unsinkable. He is just, that was the worst illustration ever. Ha, see, I got you guys. Did you see what I did there? No? You just thought okay. Well, this is a bad way to end the video. Bye. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did. I hope you enjoy some of the newer content that I've been putting out there that's branching beyond the scope of just Jehovah's Witnesses and talking about random news stories or things that just catch my attention. Anyway, JW Thoughts is here to stay, and thank you so much for all of your guys' support. Thank you for everyone that has joined and supports me on Patreon. And yeah, that's about all I got for today. Catch you guys next time.